From Rule 62 Studios in Bossier City, Louisiana, this is The Grouch and the Brainstorm. Welcome back. What episode is it, Matt?
Yeah, 60.
Season
59?
2.
Season 2.
Episode 11.
Episode 11, but total episode.
Total episode's 58.
58.
This is our 58th
Man, you're supposed to be on that.
I didn't get my check last week. I'm still waiting on my check.
Okay.
It's in the mail. Just don't know. It's in the what mail. So I'm Mike, joined today by Jill
Hey, guys.
and Matt.
Hey.
And we got Craig S. as a guest.
Hey, you guys.
Hey, Craig. So glad you're here. So what's been going on, Jill? How about in your life? What's happening?
Well, I'm just still hanging out with Chunk and Bud, my pigs, and I got 4 baby chicks, 5 Barred Rock chicks, tending to my garden, living the good old farm life.
Have you named your chicks?
Not yet. They all look
I named mine.
they all look the same. I'm like, I don't I couldn't tell them apart if I did. I want to get to know their personalities.
I don't think we're talking about the same kind of chicks, though.
Yeah, no, we're not.
Yes, she wants to get to know their personalities.
Mine are
Like Matt's chicks.
mine are poultry.
Okay, I got you. I was confused for a moment.
I think Colonel Sanders would be interested in both.
Yeah, probably.
Rest his soul.
Yes.
Matt, how about you? What's going on in your end, man?
Man, just living the dream, man. Had our big flood this week, and me and a guy decided to dump a boat in Cross Lake while it was closed, and yeah,
Why not?
And that was fun. There's just random stuff floating by, like somebody's house. You're out there fishing.
Oh, are
you're
you
like,
serious?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, and
Tire trailer park floats by.
and then and we weren't supposed to be out there, which made it even better. Nobody was on the lake at all. It was kind of like a zombie movie.
Wow.
It's just weird stuff floating by. You're like, that's a car. It's not supposed to be here.
Billy Bob was still in it.
And we caught fish. That's what was crazy. We
Okay.
caught fish. So very strange, very fun. I like that kind of stuff. So
So what'd you catch?
catfish. We were crappie fishing, and all we caught was catfish.
Well,
Strangest thing ever. It was a weird day.
it's strange. I a couple weeks ago I went out on lake. Took the boat out on lake in over. It's called Joe Pool Lake. It's in right outside of Dallas, Grand Prairie area, and we were actually trying to catch catfish, and we didn't catch anything. So at least you got a catfish.
Oh, yeah, we had a good day. I mean, we caught a good mess of them, but we weren't trying to. We kept catching them for some reason. So, hey, went in Rome,
Yeah.
Yeah.
When in
Nice.
Rome, do what the Americans do.
It was kind of cool driving across the lake, though, and like all that junk floating in the water and knowing that the lake is officially closed, like you're not supposed to be there. It's like
No competition whatsoever.
none, And there was a reason for that, because you could die if you hit one
Yeah.
of those houses, But whatever. You got to have a
I'd be
little
more
fun.
worried about the insurance liability. Most people don't have full coverage against a house on their boat.
Insurance never crossed our mind, so we just fished. But yeah,
So, Craig,
it.
welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What's going on with you? Want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Craig Swanis. I live here. I live here in Bossier. Married. Have a daughter. She just turned 18 yesterday.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
Yesterday. Wow.
Yeah. So when we're gonna have her birthday dinner today, the family stuff kind of got relegated towards the end of the weekend. She was hanging out with her friends and all. So I've been having a tough time kind of dealing with that. Things are going to change in the house. She's our only child,
Oh,
and she's a great girl though. She's a straight A student. She's going to go to college. She was talking about the University of Arkansas, and that's just too far away from me.
that's up there, Fayetteville?
Yeah,
Yeah.
5 or 6 hours away. And then she talked about LSU, and I'm thinking Bipsy. It's right around the corner.
Yeah.
So she settled on tech though.
Okay.
So, which is kind of when I grew up on the Jersey Shore, went to school in Philly, which is about an hour away. So I was far enough away to be away and still close enough to go home. And so we'll see what happens in the fall, But other than that, just like Matt said, I'm living the dream. doing better than I deserve.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty cool, though. You know, having a kid when they first go off to college, and at least you got her tech. Hour away from where we're at, hour and 15 minutes. So, pretty cool deal. So today, Matt, I let Matt pick the topic. So, actually, I didn't. I let him vote on it. So today we're going to talk about the chapter in the big book, and actually we're not going to talk about the entire chapter. We're going to talk about just a little part of the chapter, and the chapter is called More About Alcoholism. Okay, and actually, Matt, whenever we were walking in, I had been wanting to talk about more about alcoholism for a while, and Matt made me think about it with just a couple of comments that he made, and I'm not going to repeat the comments.
Please don't.
But he made a couple of comments that made me think about it. And this is actually from chapter 3. And what we read in meetings, and, you know, if you're a newcomer out there, you may or may not have heard this. We read how it works in almost every meeting that I've ever been to at the beginning of a meeting. Some meetings, though, they pick more about alcoholism, how it works, or, you know, I've even heard the promises read to start the meeting off. But more about alcoholism is something that we read at the Koala Club, and I know at the 5:30 anyway. So sometimes. Now, let's talk about more about alcoholism before we read it. Number one, if anything, whenever I first got sober, I got there, and whenever I read or heard more about alcoholism, probably one of the real reminders of, or not reminders, real telltale things of, hey, this is just like how I live. This almost reminds me of my life. So I'm going to go to Matt first. Can you remember the first time you ever heard more about alcoholism?
It was in treatment. Yeah, I mean, pretty much treatment center.
Did you take it serious? Did you hear it?
No, I mean, I didn't even know whether I was coming or going. I mean, I didn't know. You know, I didn't even know. I think I've said this before, but I sat in there and they had the steps on the wall in the room we met in, and I remember doing them in my head like in 30 minutes. I was like, I'm done. You know,
Yes.
skip that part about, you know, any.
Can't believe it took you 30 minutes.
Yeah, I know. It was I was off that day, but
Cured.
Yeah, I was like, no big deal. What's the next deal? What are we doing next? And yeah, but I heard it in treatment. Didn't really kind of start paying attention until I got out and got in the world and got in meetings on my own, of my own choice, you know, to go. And yeah, but definitely heard it in treatment.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Jill? The first time you heard it, or what did you think the first time you heard it?
Well, probably nothing. To be honest with you, I mean, like my brain was mush, and I probably heard it. I mean, I know I heard it in treatment. I can't recall exactly when I was like, oh, I just can't, and I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Okay. No,
I literally, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I think because they gave us a big book, you know, upon entering treatment, and I think I read it before, and then when we got in the meetings or whatever and they were reading, I was like, oh, that's out of that book I've been reading. Like, that's where that came from,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it's almost like a piece of fiction when you first get the big book. You know, it's not like a piece of you know, the piece of art that we find it now.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like reading a fictional book, because to me it was fiction. This shit ain't gonna happen to me, right? Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
Greg, do you remember the first time you read more about alcoholism, or the first time you heard it?
I think the first time I remember, and I'm sure that I heard it before, but I was in Brentwood, and there was a guy there named James.
Yeah, I remember. He was one of my.
Yeah.
And he was kind of had a no nonsense approach to this, and I remember him going through this kind of like line by line, and he would look at me and he's like, "Can you identify with that?" And of course, I just gave him the sure, but that's really the first time I remember dealing with this and actually paying attention. He basically told me that if I didn't want to be there, to go out and get myself some more.
Yeah.
And of course I didn't, but not till a couple days later, at least.
I mean, that is strange that it does say that.
What?
go out, and try it again in the big book.
Yeah.
Like, how's it going to work for you?
Quit wasting your time. I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't think you're there yet, I mean, to me, it just, I guess, it hadn't gotten bad enough yet. Mm-hmm. And, that pain and misery was kind of setting in, but, it just, I just didn't get things. I kind of kept thinking that there was a reset button. And if I just gave myself enough time, off the drugs, off the alcohol, that things would just go back to normal. And I could still go to a bar if I wanted to, or, do whatever, and not have any of those consequences that were piling up. That's probably the first time. And like I said, I that was my second time around, and I never really had paid attention to the book or the program. I was more just about the fellowship itself.
Right.
So
yeah, I get that. So I can't remember the exact first time, but I remember the first time I heard it. Right. I actually heard it and said, this kind of relates to what I'm going through, or not kind of, right? It's probably the most impactful group of wording that is in the book, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna break it down. I wish I had some really good music. We're gonna break it down, but I don't have. Yeah, I probably do, and I don't know what button it is. But we're gonna break it down. So let's go paragraph by paragraph. So most of us have been unwilling to admit we were real alcoholics. No person likes to think he is bodily and mentally different from his fellows. Therefore, it is not surprising that our drinking careers have been characterized by countless vain attempts to prove we could drink like other people. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is the great obsession of every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. Boom.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Do you know, every time I hear that, I automatically, I know this sounds stupid, but to me, it's like gates of hell. Mm-hmm. That's what comes to my head every time someone reads it. Sorry for that tidbit.
No, I mean,
I identify with that absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know what's interesting about this? In my case, I wasn't convinced I was an alcoholic because I thought my drinking was normal, even though it was completely abnormal. And, I came to treatment just for the opiates, not for anything else I was taking. And
I thought they were passing out opiates at treatment.
just show up. Hey,
well, and
what's happening?
it never crossed my mind that drinking daily was a problem. It never did. So it took me a while to fully understand my alcoholism and realize that, like, I'd been in withdrawals for a long time from alcohol. But every morning when I was shaking and doing all this vomit stuff, dry heaving and all the fun things, I was like, God, my anxiety is so bad this morning. Let me take a couple of Xanax. And then it would go away. And I was like, oh, I'm fine.
Cured.
It was my anxiety. And so, this kind of like is a synopsis of what that illusion that I had to get past, or the delusion, because even though when I got sober, I wasn't drinking either, but it took me a while to realize, damn, I'm an alcoholic, like a real alcoholic. And I remember the doctor, the psychiatrist at the treatment center was like, and that's what he said to me. I was like, I'm a drug addict. And he was like, and after talking to me, he's like, you're an alcoholic. And I was like, And I know that may sound odd or whatever, but I didn't think I was an abnormal drinker. And why should I if I'm also hanging around alcoholics that drink the same?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It never struck me once that drinking a case of beer a day was abnormal. It just really didn't.
Yeah. I did the same thing, though. I got in there and I was going for other stuff, and I was like, well, and then I got in there and kind of time went by and I started realizing everything started with alcohol.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I have an alcohol problem too. It never crossed my mind that could be the problem, Mm-hmm. And I thankfully the people where I was, they said, a guy I talked to a lot there, he said, it's pretty simple, man. He said, if you can't say I'm going to have a drink, and then this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. He said, if you can't control that, when it stops, where you're going, what you're doing, a pretty good chance. And I went, oh, I've never been able to do that.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, you may want to look into that.
Regardless, I mean, if it was alcohol, but it was alcohol in all forms, you know, whether it be pill, whether it be, you know, powder, rock, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I never knew. You never knew what Jill you were going to get.
Yeah. Yeah. And you never knew when it would stop, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it would stop when I ran out of money.
Yeah, when you ran out of money. That's
whenever
usually
that was, you know.
And it started out that way, even in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right when my drinking career started, I mean, it just immediately, no one knew
Yeah.
what's Jill going to do.
Yeah.
I tell this story when I first time I ever got drunk. Not the first time I ever drank, but the first time I ever got drunk was in the early '80s, and it was Veterans Day. Mm-hmm. And we used to get that day off from school. It was like a Tuesday or something like that. It was some random day of the week, and a buddy of mine had stole a fifth of Old Granddad from his parents' cabinet.
Did you say old granddad?
Old Granddad.
What the shit is that?
It's
Leonard
bourbon.
Skinner loved Old Granddad, and I'm not joking.
It's a bourbon whiskey.
Okay.
And there's 12 of us out in the woods, and we're all sipping on this. And out of us 12, I'm the only one that managed to drink enough to pass out and be done for the whole entire day. And they're covering me with leaves to keep me warm and making
Wait, where the hell were you?
in the woods in South Jersey.
Okay.
And they turned me, you know, on my stomach because I was puking. And they didn't want me to choke on my puke, and you know, I was passed out for the whole entire afternoon, and finally got up in enough time to go home and kind of be presentable. You know, I was trying to hide the fact that I was hungover as shit, and I was eating dinner, and I'm like, Mom, this chicken tastes weird. She's like, yeah, I cooked it in wine. I'm like, perfect. Perfect.
Lovely.
So, and then that Christmas Eve, I was allowed to drink with the family. The same thing happened. I drank enough to pass out. Mm-hmm. So my first 2 times at the age of 14, I was off to the races already.
Yeah, my first time I was, my first drunk, I was passed out right there in my front yard at 15 with vomit all over me. That's where my parents found me.
It's like those endorphins would kick in, and that feeling was so addictive, I guess. I didn't want that to ever go away. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if one was good, well, shit, 3 or 4 has got to be a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I don't know when I crossed that line. I guess it was right away. You know, I started right there. And
isn't it weird? I mean, like, I felt horrible. I think I was hungover for like 2 days, and I was like, that was disgusting.
Did y'all remember the beer commercials? I remember when I was a kid, and it'd be like all these dudes with like flannel shirts on,
Drinking Schlitz.
yeah, and they're hanging out by a campfire, and like there's chicks in bikinis walking around, you know, and it's like, we're having this pleasant evening. You know what happened when I went camping? We burnt the woods down. They were covering me with leaves, like Craig. Nobody even got a tent put up, you know. They have like this beautiful river. People out there trout fishing.
It's cold,
we're on a
raining.
sewer grate, you know. Like it never worked out like the commercial.
Oh.
So,
no.
yeah. False advertising, man.
I mean, think about it, all beer commercials. Think about all the stuff that, like, the horses prancing and
Yeah, I mean,
Playing football.
but you know, that was back.
Even
in
the
day.
horse looks good on a beer commercial.
Yeah,
they're beautiful.
yeah.
And McDonald's hamburgers really don't look like they look like
No.
in the
No,
in the commercial.
no, not at all.
Ba-da-ba-ba.
Not at all. But yeah, I just remember being a teenager and thinking back and going, man, we don't camp anything like those commercials. You know, this is horrible. So, you know, we're sleeping
Why is
like
it always about camping when it comes to your story?
there was a lot of camping in the early days. You know, we had to go somewhere to drink. So when you're underage, you have to figure something out.
Oh, yeah.
In high school, we had these things called pit parties. There was no pit involved. It was just out in the middle of the woods somewhere, and someone would start a fire, and
Yep. That sounds about right.
we would drink until, you know, the beer was gone. And that was always a sad, sad moment for me when the party was over.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a lot of, you know, like parties out in pastures, and we had friends that owned a junk shop or whatever the hell, and we just burnt tires. So the next day,
fixing to say
we'd
burnt
be like
tires.
covered in like black and
Yeah.
it'd be all in your nose.
I've woken up in those fields before, just like the next day, and it's like, what just went on, you know? We had one of those that a
Memories.
guy had a Shetland pony.
Oh, I don't know. Want to know where this is going?
I know. I was
no.
like, please don't
He
worry.
was real mean, and
You didn't
we'd
burn
have
the
a
horse.
couple of drinks and jump on him if we could catch him. And
The
dude,
guy
he
or the
would-
pony?
The pony, man. And that thing would run, and like there was equipment.
Yeah,
like,
I'd be running
where
too
we
if you were
at.
coming after me.
Yeah, and man, he would scrape us off on a tractor or whatever. Just like it was rough, man. So we didn't have a lot to do, you know. Got to have fun
Yes.
some kind of way.
Sounds like y'all had a blast.
Anywho,
So, Mike, tell us about your take on that first paragraph.
Well, you know, I mean, obviously, first drink, first week of drinking, whatever it is, you know, this didn't really kind of happen like this. You know, this was after a long time of drinking. You know, I never really had a problem admitting that I did not drink like normal people. I kind of got that. Normal people. I didn't have friends that drank like me. Nobody, you know. But then again, I've always been somewhat of a show off. So I wanted to outdrink everybody. I wanted to, you know, and then once those inhibitions or whatever it is were gone away, then I could just pull even more stupid stuff. So
Hey, look what I can do.
yeah, yeah. Watch this. See y'all in 10 to life. You know? So I didn't mind admitting I was bodily. I'm actually bodily different. You know, that would probably be more than mentally. But I didn't have a problem admitting that I was different than my fellows. Now, the idea that somehow, someday, I could control and enjoy my drinking never became a great obsession because I just knew that was how it was going to be. I was going to control it. I
Yeah.
could, you know. And then I couldn't, and I would admit I had a problem, and then within days I would talk myself back into being able to control it. Oh, well, now that I've got a grip on it,
Yeah.
you know, and so. But what I like is this one line: the persistence of this illusion is astonishing, because realistically, the persistence is the part that's astonishing. The persistence of the illusion. I would literally, for years, 10, 15 years, tell myself the same thing over and over again, which is astonishing because after a while, and when it comes to normal matters, I don't care if it's a marriage, whether it's a diet or a job, after years and years or decade of telling myself the whole same thing over and over again, I'm going to catch it and take corrective action. But when it came to alcohol, I couldn't do it. I would have just kept lying to myself had that one moment of clarity not popped up in there, you know.
Yeah. Did you guys ever try to control your drinking? It just never happened with me. I just drank.
Oh, I think I tried to control it every time.
Yeah.
Up until like the first drink.
I tried to control it up to the point where I'm hammered, but people don't really know I'm hammered.
See,
like
what-
I'm functioning.
Well, I think Matt's got a
That's
good
where the
point. What we're talking about here is I think I can fool everybody
Yeah.
into not knowing I'm drunk. Even though my tongue's 3 inches thicker,
Oh my God. And they're like that.
my eyes for some reason go in different directions.
Somehow I'm up in this tree in these people's yard, but you know,
but-
hey,
well, that's why some people say they drive better when they've been drinking.
Oh God, I hear that oh gosh.
I bowl better. I golf better.
Yeah.
because they don't remember how bad they were.
Well,
you know,
Right.
Well, you know, it's tragic that we tell ourselves these things, right? People say they're more creative when they're on drugs or drinking.
You hear that
Yeah.
all the time.
I hear it
with
from a
art.
lot of artists. But I watched a guy on some little, it could have been Instagram, TikTok, one of them. But they actually filmed when the officers went in and told this guy that he had killed a guy while he was drunk driving. And they filmed the guy. The guy had no idea. He thought he hit a fire hydrant.
Hey.
And they were like, you killed a man. And I mean, this guy was young, you know, and he just, I mean, and you could tell there was some remorse there. Like, oh my God, I killed somebody. And then, you know, he's like, my life is over. And,
Yeah.
and both are true. You know, for the most part, your life on the outside is pretty much done. Maybe not. Maybe there's something in there that happens for them because I have no way of telling. But the persistence of that illusion is astonishing when you think about it in the, you know, in the context that we just, because we'll tell ourselves over and over and over. And you know, even me, not short of hurting someone, I don't know about that, but no matter what happened, I would still tell myself I would be able to this time. It's going to be different. I can control it this time.
I never said that.
I think
Like
go ahead.
never.
I don't think I ever tried to control it until it dawned on me that I couldn't control it anymore. I always felt like I had the ability that, yeah, I'd get in some scrapes or a little bit of trouble, but I would like go right up to the edge of that envelope and I'd be able to pull back, straighten everything out, and then kind of start over again. And when I got to the point that I was hiding it constantly from my fiance at the time, you know, bottles all over the house, and just, have you been drinking? No. And I'm already shit faced at
Not a drop.
at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I realized that when I didn't have it in me, all I knew was that I hurt, and I wanted to feel better.
And it's a different pain. It's just a horrible pain.
It's all encompassing. I mean, everything from your toenails to the
top of your hair.
Yeah,
everything
to the top of your hair,
and in your soul. Your soul is hurting. I wish I could describe it. It's like when you get a tattoo on a part of your body that's real thin skinned. You can feel it in your bone, right? And you could feel that hurt that you're talking about, especially when it starts leaving. And when that alcohol starts leaving your system, there is pain.
You know, and just thinking about this, I used to ride to school with a guy named John. He ended up becoming a Navy SEAL, okay, in his adult life. But he and I rode to school together, and we used to drink Red Dog beer. Red Dog. Y'all remember that one? It was like $8 a case.
Yeah, I remember it.
Real expensive.
I don't think they make it anymore.
Top shelf.
Top shelf. Hot Red Dog beer that was just laying around in his Bronco.
No time for hot beer.
He had a Bronco like OJ, but it was
with a
blue.
straw.
No. I never drank nothing with a straw. Well, except for that one drink behind me right now. But yeah. But he, I mean, that's not normal, you know. That's not normal to have 4 hot beers on the way to school in a 20-minute drive.
Is this like the second grade or what?
It was middle school.
Middle school?
No, it was high school, you know. But I mean, that's not normal. Who does that? You know,
Red Dog beer was introduced in 1994.
This is about 96.
So this is like Zima time, huh?
It's my Zima. You know,
I'm trying to think of the cheap beers that we had in the Philly area. It was Rolling Rock, Genesee Cream Ale, and Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah, it's just a Bud Light cans kind of woman.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have any money, so.
And Red Dog was made by Miller.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
Which is made right down the road from my where I live now. The Miller plant is right there.
Okay.
Yeah. Currently on strike.
It just had a dog on the front. It was like a bulldog with a Rastafarian haircut for some reason. He was like...
If we had a website, we would post a picture of that to our website.
Yeah.
But we don't.
It's unusual. But yeah, I mean, where does I just thought it was fun to do.
Yeah.
And it never occurred to me, hey, 99.9% of society does not drink hot beer on the way to school every day, you know?
Well, I remember when I first met my wife, we'd go out, and I never realized it, but I'd be doing Coors Light and a shot of tequila, and Coors Light and a shot of tequila. And the whole time, she might have one beer and not even finish it.
Yeah.
I mean, she's that way. Even today, she'll go out, and every now and because of my drinking, she doesn't drink anymore.
Okay.
She might have a cocktail every now and again, and it's usually a Cosmopolitan, and she might make her way through a quarter to a half of that drink. Ooh, I'm starting to feel tipsy. And she puts it aside, and that's that. I mean, and I'm just left sitting at the table staring at this drink like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, that was the odd.
Yeah.
That was the one that was, peculiar and like, that's weird.
Yeah, no, it's totally weird. I'm like, you wimp,
Now,
Alcoholics, Craig.
we move forward in how it works, and in its own paragraph. Okay, and this is one thing that, like when I break the big book down, this is one of those things that it goes from problem, solution a little bit, more problem, consequence. You'll see where I'm going. So we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people or presently may be has to be smashed. Now, the delusion has to be smashed. What is the delusion?
that we're
That we can drink like normal people.
yeah.
that we're not alcoholics.
Yeah.
So, did you have trouble smashing that delusion?
I think I've mentioned before that I was a polysubstance abuser, or dependent, or whatever you want to call it. So it all happened in like different times. Like I said, the opiates was first, and I was like, oh, okay, that was problematic. And then everything else started like happening after that. The delusion of my alcoholism, I think, was probably last, and that was probably the worst. I'd been drinking for so long, and of course the Xanax as well. But there were just stages of me having those like epiphanies. Oh, that was a problem. And I think that's hard for a lot of people that have used many different substances, because a lot of people will be like, well, it wasn't bad with this one, but I can still go back and do this one. And I knew I couldn't do any of them, and I was totally okay with that. But I still had the thought like, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. And over the years, the more my eyes, have opened up, and I'm really able to look at things clearly without that delusion. I was like, wow, yeah, it was all of it.
I had a lot of problems with a lot of the steps, but step one was not the one I had the problem with. Like I left nothing on the table when I got there. It was no other alternative. Mm-hmm. It was beat into me thoroughly. So, the rest of it, was some of it was hard to work through, but, but I have a lot of people in working with them, and it's like, well, I can drink beer, or whatever. I'm like, no, dude. Like,
it hasn't sunk in yet.
there was a couple guys the other day at work, there was a couple guys at work the other day, younger guys, and they were like, what'd you do over the weekend? They're in treatment, and I come in on Monday, and I said, man, I fished a little bit and mowed grass and that kind of stuff. And they're like, I just don't understand, man. You got to drink beer or something. I'm like, I don't do anything, man.
Yeah.
I don't. And they're like, that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, I realize that. That's why you're in treatment right now. But it will one day, So, but their whole idea is like, hey, maybe I can do this, or maybe I can do, whatever. And they just haven't got there yet.
That's right. I mean, like, once I realized, and I was able to just totally like, it was everything, and just like smash that whole deal. I mean, there's a lot of freedom behind that. But it was imperative for my recovery, even though like I quit everything at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what's funny is we do stick around a little while. And what I like about Alcoholics Anonymous, we stick around a while, and then we go, oh, wait a minute. I can eat Mexican food alcoholically as well. I can I can mow grass alcoholically. Yeah. And then they go, wait a minute, my whole life I'm a damn alcoholic, everything I do. So then you really get into some other things, but yeah, it's the same mentality. I can get in trouble with all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I still had all these like justifications. Mm-hmm. Like and especially the Xanax. Well, I mean, it was prescribed, and I have panic disorder. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I realized pretty quickly I couldn't have that. But once, like after 60 days, when like my brain was somewhat coming back, I could make complete sentences, and I wasn't having panic attacks, and wasn't like having, like I had a headache every day for a really long time, and I was still like having some physical issues. That I was like, oh wow, I feel all right.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like complete shit. And that's how I felt every morning I woke up for 20-something years.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Those 4 horsemen.
No, we talked about those on the last episode.
Yeah.
The hideous 4 horsemen, or what they call it? The hideous 4 horsemen? Is that it? Hideous? That the adjective I'm looking for?
I don't remember that.
They are hideous.
I just remember there's 4 of them, and they're all sons of bitches.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, I mean,
Especially
you would
that
think
one Despair.
over all those years, I'd wake up and be like, something's not right.
Well, it's like my friend Bruce says. I drank a case of beer and ate a bologna sandwich. I guess I shouldn't have had that bologna sandwich.
Bologna's bad, man.
I love
Had
that.
to be the
I love
baloney that did it to me, man.
But I did that every time. I was like, damn.
This is a message to
Mike's
think,
multitasking.
Looking back, I had people drop hints that maybe I had a problem. And I ended up disassociating myself from those people because they made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't have to, in my mind, you know, the alcoholic was the proverbial guy under the bridge with a tent or a brown paper bag, you know, hadn't shaved, hadn't showered. You know, I worked, I had a job, I was paying my bills. Yeah, I wasn't paying the tax man, but
You don't have to be an alcoholic to have that problem.
but I never put it together, and I never understood the term. Like Joe B always says, you know, that he came in and he caught alcoholism. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And now I understand that because I see that. I mean, honestly, I drink coffee alcoholically.
Sure.
I drink coffee all day long, but it's not going to get me in trouble. At least I don't think.
Not yet. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
Sorry, that was bad.
So for me to smash, there wasn't even that, you know, that illusion didn't exist in my mind. Again, I just thought was when the first time I tried to get sober, I just thought I was just having some bad luck, you know, and you hear that all the time in the meetings. And the more time I put between myself and that drink, you know, the better things would get, and it would all go back to the way it was. And every time that I've gone out, this is my third time through, you know, I've added something to my repertoire. You know, I was a straight alcoholic the first time. Second time, it was alcohol and crack. Third time, it's alcohol, crack, and opioids. And and I say this over and over again, and when I share this, you know, it's the absolute truth. All the bad stuff you guys said would happen if I didn't take this seriously, all that shit happened. So,
What I think is interesting is that, I mean, it takes a while for us to gain insight. I mean, it just takes a while. I was not insightful. I did not have any knowledge of addiction, how it worked, and get past all the bullshit I was telling myself. And that did not happen overnight for me. I mean, for some of the stuff, it took years. Even though I was in recovery, doing the deal, there was a lot I had to learn about myself, and you know, and all the stupid reasons why I thought everything was okay.
Yeah.
It took a while. I mean, your brain is mush when you get sober. Like I said, I couldn't make sentences. I could barely speak, much less think about anything else.
Sure. Yeah, it just takes some time, and it's you know, even in the few years that that I've been sober, I'm still working on stuff now that it's like it starts to occur, like, oh, I'm kind of you know, but it's gotten better, and I've learned to kind of monitor things, you know. But
I kind of wish we had, or at least in my case, I kind of wish I had that forethought, because in the beginning, when I'm hurting and I'm really feeling like shit and I got this mountain of problems, it's like at that certain point in time, I'm willing to go to any length. Mm-hmm. But the funny thing happens is that you start to feel better, and all of a sudden, you know, I start qualifying my any length. I really don't got to do that now, you know, and it's kind of a double-edged sword for me.
We go back to James at Brentwood, and I want to say a few times I'd went, and I was in there this one particular time, and he said, are you willing to go to any length to get sober? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll do whatever it takes. He said, are you willing to live in a halfway house? And I said, I'm almost willing to go to any length.
That's exactly what my counselor
And then he
said.
was basically, and he didn't say it in these words because I love the way he was so blunt, but he said basically, well, when you're ready for that, you're ready to get sober. But until then, we'll keep taking your money. Keep on coming, you know?
Yeah. No, he was amazing. I mean,
Is he still there?
I was there 2 years ago, and he was there. I think I heard a rumor he might be sick.
I heard that rumor too.
So,
and I do know someone that he sponsors, and I might give them a call to ask about it. I have not talked to him since I've been sober, since I've been out of that June 21st, 2011 is when I met him, and I was there for about 2 weeks. And then once I got out, I haven't seen him since. Wow. Yeah, not even in a meeting, nowhere. So, but moving on. All right, so we alcoholics are men and women who have lost the ability to control our drinking. We lost the ability. We can't control our drinking. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. All of us felt at times that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control, which led in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. We are convinced to a man that alcoholics of our type are in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. Wow. And over any considerable period can be a week, a month, a year. It can be an hour. I'm with Craig. So, but we've lost the ability. Basically, what it's telling us here is we've lost the ability. We can't control it. Here's the thing. If I tell myself I can control it, I'm taking control back, right? That's why I never say I'll never drink again. Because the minute I do, I have control, and I don't have any control over that. So, but we know and when they say we, I'm guessing it's the authors of the book. We know that no real alcoholic ever recovers control. So if I'm really an alcoholic, I'm never really going to recover that. I'm never going to have that control.
But going back to the authors of the book, writing we, that's the beautiful thing about that whole deal. It says we. If I'd have read all that and it says you have lost control, I'd be like, no, it hadn't kissed my butt. But it says
I'll
we,
show
and
you.
I start going, well, who's we? Oh, it's that guy and me and this person. Then that's a whole different tone put on the whole reading, So,
but all of us felt at time that we were regaining control, but such intervals, usually brief, were inevitably followed by still less control.
That's that illusion you were talking about.
There you go. That's it. So I think I've got control. Okay, I'm going to go out tonight. I'm going to control it. And it gets even worse than it was last time. So that's the progressive illness that it's going to talk about later on in this paragraph, where it says we're in the grip of a progressive illness. Over any considerable period, it just gets worse, never better. So I don't have to look at you, Craig, and go, okay, this is Craig in 1990, and this is Craig in the year 2000. And let's look at that 10-year period. Did his life get worse or better? In respect to alcohol, which usually in mine had something to do with everything.
Worse.
So let's look at from 2000 to 2010. I don't have to do that. Okay, now if I'm new in the program, and and my sponsor starts sharing that information with me, I get it, right? But all I have to do is look at my part of it. My friend Vic down in Covington, or at the Mandeville group down there, he always used to say, I have a data set. And all I have to look at is my data set. And what it is this is my life in the year 2000. This is my life in 2011 when I got sober. Did it get better or worse over that 11-year period? And truth is, mine I don't have to look at anybody else's. Mine got worse. Yeah. It just progressively got worse with a steady string of telling myself, this time's going to be different. This time is going to be different. Right?
absolute insanity.
Yeah. I don't think I ever said that it would be different. I just thought that's just the way things were. And it was just
always
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Control
I didn't start saying that it'd be different until I actually tried recovery. And then I'm like, okay, well, I know. Now I know.
Okay. I didn't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, before I was totally oblivious. But I think once I had a taste of AA and a couple treatment centers, I'm like, all right, this is what went wrong. All right, so we're gonna not incorporate that this time, and I can go out and smoke crack like a gentleman, and be fine.
I want that bumper sticker. I can smoke crack like a gentleman.
And not take every dime that's in the house and have to worry about, and pawning shit that's not mine. My wife came home at Thanksgiving and the TV was gone.
Whoops.
Yeah. So, that would.
I had a guy the other day was talking to, and I said, we're talking about him coming to grips with the idea that he may have a problem, and he just got frustrated, and he goes, "I don't have a drinking problem. I got a get off my ass problem. Everybody needs to get off my ass, and it'll be fine." And I went,
Lord.
"Yeah, I had one of those too for about 25 years, man. But they all got off my ass when I quit doing the stuff I was doing. But it kind of makes you smile. It's sad, but at the same time, you're like, God, we're all the same. Like it just.
Well, I'm going with it through a guy in work right now. He got out of prison. He was on parole, and he did good. He did great. And then now he's off paper, and you could just see the progression slowly. And him and his girlfriend are, I don't know what their drug of choice is, but every day it's some kind of drama, it's some kind of excuse why he's not there. He's got it, shows up late, leaves early, borrowing money, and it's,
sounds about right.
and it's everybody else's fault that all this stuff is happening to him. And so I told him the other day, I'm like, I'm going to an AA meeting. Yeah, I need to come to one of those with you. I'm like, all right, well, come on. No, we'll do that tomorrow. We'll do, and I could just see it, and it's frustrating. And I told him, look, dude, I said, you're making me feel uncomfortable. I don't want to be around you anymore. Man, I thought we were friends, man. I thought we were friends. And I'm like, well, you thought wrong, because my sobriety is more important to me than, because I can feel that. And not to make it about me, this is his deal, but I just, my stomach starts grumbling, and I can just, and you're right. It's all the same characteristics that I had, and it brings it brings it right back. I mean, there's so many things I've forgotten about that it's good to, like with you being, working at that treatment center. Mm-hmm. You see it on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, multiple times. Jill
all
does too.
Day long.
Yeah, Jill deals with it.
Yeah,
and it's been like that for the past 14 years.
Yeah,
every day, all day.
Yeah, but it at the same time, you're talking about your friend and how that made you feel. I have that feeling sometimes with guys that come in there, and what I really try to do, and I'm not great at it because I work a lot and I'm working 2 different things right now, but I still go to my meetings. Even though I may sit in a meeting in a treatment center during the day, actually a couple meetings during the day. Yeah.
It's important.
That's their recovery, and I'm there doing a job. Right. And like when I leave, I've got to go take care of my business, Mm-hmm. And if I get something out of that, that's great, but that's not my recovery. I have to call my sponsor. I have to do those things. So, but it can bring you some of those old feelings and stuff, So
there is a phrase in here that, of course, we cannot pass up. And it's every time I read that, I always go back to this one scenario: pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization.
Now, somehow I knew you were going to say that.
I can't even say
that's
that.
That's a Jill statement,
so
right there.
Here's my take on this real quick. Demoralization is pretty bad.
All of it is pitiful.
Well,
incomprehensible.
These are the adjectives describing the demoralization. It's pitiful for starters, and then it's incomprehensible.
Yes.
I can't even comprehend how pitiful this demoralization is, and only someone like me, a real alcoholic addict, can even relate to these words. But I had never even heard this combination of words of English language put together that sounded so beautiful as this.
Exactly.
Whenever I came in.
And not many people will read that and go like, hey, that's me. Or I know that. And it is a beautiful but ugly combination of words that when I read that, when I heard that group, I don't even think I could say all those at one point, because they're big words. But I was like, I've been there.
I think that's what we use as a point in AA, where if someone can actually say those words together, they've got a little time under their belt.
Exactly. And there's actually one moment out there that sums that up. And I remember that night so well, and it was horrible. I got beat up like bad by a dude. I'm talking bad. And I'll never forget that because I don't even know. How can I say that? I was in a blackout, but I don't know what happened. I still don't know what happened that day. And I remember there were a bunch of cops involved. I called the cops, but it was me that had a couple of felonies. against me and everything. And when my family, I guess my mom, I don't even know what happened. I just know I came home and I remember my whole body hurt. And I remember laying there and just screaming, like blood curdling, just because like I didn't know what happened. And to me, I will never forget that night. Once I started to remember, that is what I felt that night. It was, I still to this day, it freaks me out. I still will never know what happened, but I'm pretty sure from what the, the cops report and the managers of that apartment complex stated that, from any other reports.
I bet they were ready for you to move.
Yeah, I'd been in a blackout for a couple of days, and it was really bad.
So did that moment make you go forward and go, oh, I'm going to get better now?
No,
yeah,
absolutely
that's
not.
What's so funny,
But I'd never
weird.
had that feeling of feeling so low and so demoralized to the point like I just almost got, they dropped the charges, the dude did, but like to the point like I don't know what happened. I got the complete shit beat out of me. I'm talking like hematomas all over my face.
By the dude or the police?
The dude,
Okay.
the police, I was laying on the ground. That's when I came to.
Oh.
Laying on the ground in handcuffs. And I was like, I looked around. I was like,
It's always when your nose starts itching, right then.
I didn't know. I was like, and they were all screaming at me. And I just like, that's where I came to. I mean, there were like ambulances and fire trucks and like 10 cops there. It was quite the scene. Don't know.
Imagine.
Worth. Yeah.
Imagine that's a little.
Well, from what I understand, I attacked him big time. Yeah, I threw punches. I went crazy on him.
Well, you can generally piece together what happened from the police report.
Yeah.
I remember my
That's
dad
usually a
going,
giveaway.
my dad was like, what the fuck happened? And I mean, like,
Not again,
I
Jill.
don't know.
I know. I was like, I don't know.
It was a Tuesday.
I think with me, I think maybe the first time around it was just demoralization, and then maybe my second time around it got to that incomprehensible demoralization, and on the third time's a charm. I finally had that pitiful and incomprehensible
Yeah, demoralized.
demoralization. They talk. We always get worse. Never better. They talk about the progression. And,
Yeah.
And it fits me to a T,
Yeah.
or us to a T.
I mean, it just, those words just ring in my head. Like when I hear them, just absolutely. I can agree with that. Just 100%.
It's heartbreaking.
It's hard for me to say all three together without stuttering.
And they're a hard group of words to put together, even if you're just dead sober. Pitiful, incomprehensible. And you can sometimes listen to people when they're reading it at the club. Some people just go right through it, and some people it's just a tough combination of words.
yeah. To put together, what did that look like for you guys?
Oh,
For pitiful and incomprehensible
Yeah.
demoralization, Matt, what did it look like for you?
pretty much. I'm in the loss everything category. It was everything had been stripped away. So there was no home, no job, no family, no food, no bath, no money, no all the no's.
Yeah.
There was nothing there at that point, and just could not function without substances in my body. Just it was over with. It was just wasn't. There was nothing happening, and yeah, and I finally got some folks that got me in a detox hospital and detoxed a little bit, and then went on from there and went in treatment. And like I said, I got a lot of guys and they struggle with that. Where was that point? I just didn't. I knew this is the end of the line right here. I mean, one way or another it is. And, and two, we need to be grateful that we got to that point, because I think that's where people get better, but some people don't. And had a guy the other day came in, did a little bit of maybe 3 weeks of a 30-day program, went back out. He'd been in treatment multiple times, just hadn't gotten enough of it. And they found him dead in the river the other day, and they think he got killed over dope,
That's
And,
murder?
Yeah. And he was missing for a week.
Yeah.
And then they found him. And, so he didn't get to that point, and he had an opportunity there to maybe change that. And he went right back to what he was doing. And so, you know, I'm grateful that I got to that point. You know, I can still,
For sure.
I can still picture myself standing in that room in that therapist in front of her desk, and I made a snarky comment. I've been there like 2 hours, you know, and I'm like, yeah, I know y'all are shocked that I made a smart ass
Right.
comment, but she's telling me this stuff, and we're gonna do this and that, and I just interrupt her, and I'm like, look, we'll give it a year. You know, I'll try this for a year. And she looked up at me and she goes, a year? A year? Like, you can't get through the day. Like, what is your... And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, that's right.
You're like, let's
And
just get through this.
yeah, maybe I'm delusional, you think? And she said, you know, let's review you coming in here, okay? You have 2 T-shirts and a Walmart bag. That's what you have. No soles on the shoes of your feet. You haven't eaten any food you can't eat. You're throwing up everywhere. You know, hadn't slept in a week. And I went, okay, you're right. Maybe I'll just shut up now and listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
So
We'll give it a year.
So I did. Yeah, I'll give it a year. How arrogant is that, you know? So just, yeah, I don't know, delusional, definitely. So, but,
Well, so diving off into the last paragraph here we have of this of more about alcoholism. It kind of gives you some follow up things to think about. So we are like men who have lost their legs; they never grow new ones. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. That's kind of what it's saying. Neither does there appear to be any kind of treatment which will make alcoholics of our kind like other men. So there's no cure for alcoholism, right? That's what they're saying. We have tried every imaginable remedy, truth, okay? In some instances, there have been brief recovery followed always by a still worse relapse. Now, I got to draw my attention to the still worse relapse, because not just a relapse, things are just getting worse. Physicians who are familiar with alcoholism agree there is no such thing as making a normal drinker out of an alcoholic. Can't do it. Can't make a normal. Mike Walston, been sober 12 years, be 13 here in a couple months. Cannot go out and drink like a normal person to this day. I just can't do it. Science may accomplish this, but it hasn't done so yet. This book was written in it's written in 37, I believe, published 39. This is 2024. We're talking about 80-something years later. Science still hasn't done that. You know, however, now that we understand a little bit more about alcoholics and addicts, if science did have a pill that made us drink like other men, we would probably take too many.
Yep.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. That is perfect.
But it's crazy. I mean, like you said, so many decades have passed and it still holds true. Mm-hmm. I know for a fact I cannot drink or use that. That horrifies me to think that. I just can't imagine.
I'm still picturing Craig smoking crack like a gentleman, like in a little tuxedo. You know, just, you know, I don't know.
Actually, I stole
love
that from Hayden. He
Oh yeah.
Our boy.
yeah,
Yeah.
Need to check on Hayden.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him in a while.
he used that ever since he got his haircut. I thought
Yeah.
like
what
he's like
happened?
Samson. He lost all his power.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. I mean, I really enjoyed what he had to say, but he shared that in a meeting one time, and I'm like, you know, that's
He sure
perfect.
did.
That's
Yeah.
you know, that's me. And then you're pounding on the in the case of drinking, you're pounding on the bar, wondering how I got back to this.
It's like the camping thing. We have this picture in our mind of how it should be, but it's not that, you know?
It always goes back to camping.
Yeah, and they'd go, we'll head straight for the mountains. I headed straight for the gutter every time. Yeah, bush. There you go. So, yeah, it was never like that, you know? Just never was.
I had something really insightful to say, and it just left. So
That usually happens whenever we're on the show. So, you know. So anyway.
But yeah, we are. I mean, I agree with everything that this paragraph or that this chapter explains, and you know, I just never got it. I just never got it. I wouldn't identify with the words that were on the page. I was just reading something because basically I was told by my sponsor, well, who am I kidding? My first 2 times around, I didn't even have a sponsor. Mm-hmm. But I was reading it because I didn't want to look foolish. I wanted to be able to talk in front of people and have them think that, that I knew what I was talking about, But anyways, this time it seemed so far today it seemed to be different.
Well, guys, we have reached the end of our time for today. We're about to wrap this episode up. Craig, thank you again for stopping by.
Yes,
My
sir.
pleasure.
And what episode was this, Matt? This is episode 58.
58.
Yeah. So I thought about it, and I think what we're going to do, and I don't have any idea who our guest is going to be, but I want to do 59 and 60 because they kind of coincide with our 1 year anniversary, which is the 28th of April. I want to do episode 59 and 60, a breakdown on how it works.
Okay. I like it.
And we'll, and we'll get into all that later on. So let's cover some analytics. How about that?
Okay.
4,114 plays so far. Of course, after they find out Craig's on, that's liable to double.
It's going to jump
overnight.
and it's going to put you guys over the top.
Yeah, that's going to be
Top of the leaderboard.
whatever the top
International.
is. Fame. or Matt, a KOA campground.
Hey, that's high class. We just pulled over in the woods.
We have 114 followers, so we picked up a follower this week. We haven't added any countries. We're still in the same: Ireland, UK, Taiwan, Canada, Bulgaria, Lesotho, Australia, Denmark, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Colombia, the Netherlands, Mexico, and Germany.
No shit, really.
Yeah, we played in all those countries, and we only have 114 followers.
I was going to say, is there like one follower per country?
One radio per country. I guess they can listen to us.
I actually went to a meeting in the Dominican Republic. I didn't understand a damn word, but I understood, if that makes any sense.
I went to a meeting in Mississippi, and I can imagine it was like the Dominican Republic meeting. We'll talk about that later.
We still get about 36.4% of our listeners come from Apple Podcast, and then 60.4 come from Spotify. We got other 0.3, and then people listen on the internet, 2.9, their web browser. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. And still to this day, after a year of doing this, our most listened to episode is that first meeting episode, the very first episode we did. And getting the sponsor, which is I think the second, maybe is our second most listened to episode, even to this day.
Damn.
1 year later, that first meeting, and it's got 212 total listens. So that's pretty cool deal. So got to remind everybody that we have a email address, right? It's G like Grouch and B like Bozier or Brainstorm. GandBBozier@gmail.com. You can drop us a line anytime you want to. Really, we take suggestions. I do have a suggestion came from Judy, and we're gonna 2 or 3 episodes from now, that's what we're gonna talk about. We'll get into all that later though. But love to get love to get emails. Love to have the interaction. You can interact with us on the Spotify website as well. Celebrate, just in case Rhonda's listening, celebrate her birthday tomorrow, April 15th, tax day, 2016.
A lot of people are grateful for that.
Yes, a lot of folks are grateful.
That's right.
But that's tomorrow. How long is that? 16. I remember when Rhonda got there. Was that 7 years?
Something like that. Yeah.
4 and 4, 8 years.
Craig,
It's like she'll be getting
you working on one, huh?
May the 1st.
Oh.
God willing, it'll be 2 years.
Well, you got
years,
Craig, Ben, Matt,
Yeah.
Chris.
A lot of people don't believe any of that's true. All those people that are named.
Yeah,
It's
you're
like we
full
got
of-
together that week. We're like, let's go.
I think the most important thing about this is if Matt ever asks you to go camping,
Don't do it.
That's a hard no.
That's a hard no. Yeah, pass.
It's going to be different this time. All right, guys. So appreciate you coming at us, and we'll see you next week. This has been The Grouch and the Brain.